Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football, maybe primarily about the UEFA Women's Champions League. We'll get into that in just a moment. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, come kick it with us already. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials, every single one in the show notes of this episode. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic, buddy. I think we could say the Champions League is back. It's about to be back. There are varying degrees of being back.
We're back.
We're certainly back. You could be back. You could be so back. You could be back. I'm not sure we're at any of those levels yet with the Champions League, but they are coming. They're around the bend.
We're almost back. I feel comfortable saying that. We're getting close. How about a little season 2 action? Season 2, episode 1. I don't know. Feels good. Feels good to be back on the other side of the pond, mixing it up out here.
I mean, I think it's the best tournament there is. It's my favorite tournament there is. Maybe that's a more accurate way to put it. In terms of Spotify episodes, we did exactly 81 episodes on Spotify in season 1. And now here we are, back, not yet back, but just back to the UEFA Women's Champions League where this podcast started.
I don't know, man. I'm excited. I don't know. Just feels good. Feels good to be back. We're going to talk previews. Obviously, the football re-kicks off Wednesday, September 4th. There'll be a quick turnaround. Some more football September 7th. That's a Saturday. So this is going to be a big-time week. A lot of teams going to be eliminated. This is equivalent to like the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of March Madness.
Nice.
Where you go from like 68, it's 60-something down to 16. Very exciting stuff. With that said, Mr. Grant Engel, where do you want to get started?
I want to get started by cracking this frosty beverage because Champions League is back.
I will join you.
Excellent. Good to hear. That's what I like to hear. Okay.
Real quick before we jump into that. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like crazy hot in here.
We are back. We might be so back now.
Yeah, here we go.
Shame on me for not having the same idea.
Oh my God, yeah, it feels much better. You know, these Florida Augusts are no joke. So got my frosty beverage. I'm down a layer. I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling agile, feeling springy. I'm ready to kick this thing off. Where do you want to get started for real this time?
Nice shirt, buddy. Okay, for anybody who remembers, Dino is our expert in how you qualify for the Champions League. He explained it masterfully last season in the first episode, and he will do that again. But I'm gonna try to help out as much as I can. I think I retained some from the way you explained it. I'll start the bidding with Barcelona won the Champions League last year, so they're in. Mm-hmm. They also won Liga F. Lyon won Division 1 Féminine in France. They're in. Chelsea won the Women's Super League in England, so they're in. And Bayern Munich won Frauen Bundesliga, so they're in. They are all the way into the group stage. Those 4, we start the bidding with them.
Yes, we do. Congratulations to all 4 of those teams, including the defending champions, Barcelona. And now's where it gets interesting, buddy. So we're going to start things off this episode with the Champions Path, which is experiencing round 1 this week. That is where 43 teams, these are going to be champions of Europe that are not the 4 that you mentioned, essentially go into like 11 different 4-team little mini tournaments. We don't have 44, unfortunately we have 43, and I think Valoranga gets like a little bit of a bye. But basically those 43 teams have to win 2 matches to become 11 teams that are going to move on to round 2. And of those 4-team pools, 3 of the 4 are going to go home. So there's real stakes. I mean, there's some big names playing this Wednesday, as mentioned. You drop one and it's a wrap. That's the end of your Champions League season. So in the Champions Path, we've got some recognizable names: Benfica, St. Polten, Valorangala, as mentioned, FC Twente. So these are some big clubs that have some business to take care of this week.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, like you said, you think about St. Polten or Benfica, who made it all the way to the group stage. Benfica making it to the knockout stage last season, and you could be one and done here. Something goes haywire. You know, there's a weird own goal early in the match or something like that. You lose at the death, and the dreams are dashed right there. And honestly, in these qualifying phases, if it happens then, it's almost like it never happened at all because you don't have nearly the slice of the global audience. So I think it's interesting to think about these matches are being played in small stadiums with not a lot of fanfare, but they have massive implications for the clubs themselves.
Huge implications. I mean, for some of these teams, well, for all 43, they're going to be active as part of the Champions Path. I mean, they're 3 wins away from the group stage,
Yep.
Where they're going to be right there alongside some of the heaviest of heavyweights, Chelsea, the Lyons, the Barcelonas, the Munichs, and whoever else is able to survive round 2. All right, first match I want to talk about, the team near and dear to my heart, Benfica. They take on Nordsjælland. So Nordsjælland finished first in the Danish league, the Elite Divisionen. Coming into the weekend, though, they were in 6th place of 12 teams. Not great. After 6 matches, they are 3 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss, just a +2 goal differential. So even though this team took the league title last year, off to a much slower start, I'm not sure there's ever a great time to be catching Nordsjælland, but maybe is a great time to be catching Nordsjælland if you're a Benfica. What are you going to be, I don't know, what do you miss most about this Benfica side? I think you're right there with me with regard to, just kind of all the feels.
What I loved about watching them play is that they were tough. And we had kind of talked about like they're clearly going through like a maturation in their just kind of women's football and culture, the league, this team specifically. They had a lot of players from the Portuguese national team. But the one thing I absolutely miss most about watching Benfica play is Kika Nazareth. And now I'm going to continue missing that because she no longer plays there.
Yeah, we'll have to wait a minute to see Kika back in action as part of this tournament. A little bit sooner, though, in Liga F. Yeah. So very excited to see what she looks like there. But yeah, no Kika Nazareth, no Jessica Silva for Benfica. I would say most of the core team still pretty much intact, though. And they did sign 31-year-old striker Cristina Martin Prieto from Sevilla. She notched 17 goals, 3 assists last year in Liga F in 29 appearances. So this is a productive player. Had a lot of success in Liga F last year. Coming into this new league, Campeonato Nacional Femenino in Portugal, with that large Kika-sized, Jessica Silva-sized, gap in terms of like play on the field and opportunities. I think this could be a really nice position for Martin Prieto. But like I said, I think Benfica, for the most part, a lot of talent. I think what we're going to see from this team is a great display of depth, a great display of toughness, like you mentioned, and probably a bit of an evolution of their game. Even just watching them kind of mature through last year's group stage, It's kind of like they went from very, very plucky, type, okay, 2nd or 3rd tier, league champion, to this is a real team that could make noise in the knockout stage of the Champions League. And I don't think we can overlook that Kika did miss games.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a team that really performed very, very well against extremely tough competition. Obviously, anything can happen, but as unbiased as we aspire to be, I can say that I very much hope Benfica comes out and shows out in this one against Nordsjælland and survives another day.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And this is going to be an opportunity because it can be tricky for us over here in the USA to kind of follow these clubs as closely as we would like. You kind of really got to dig for the information, and even you're Googling around for the transfer window and all that stuff, trying to figure out who's going where. There could be a couple of wonder kids walking around over there for Benfica that we kind of get to discover. I think that there is a mysteriousness to this tournament that I really like because we're not constantly inundated with all this information. So we get to kind of walk in this and be like, hey, what's going on here? We want to watch this tournament. And then we get to see like all these surprises bubble up, whether it's teams or players, coaches, coaching styles. And that's part of why I've enjoyed the tournament so much.
Yeah, no doubt. So hopefully we can track this one down on live TV somehow. And then, I don't know, maybe next year, who knows, maybe we make it out to Koševo City Stadium in Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
You never know.
Anything's possible.
KG said it.
Where do you want to go from here?
Let's talk about, I had my eyes on one of these Champions Path matches as well. So let's talk about FC Twente, winners of Eredivisie Vrouwen in the Netherlands. They're taking on Cardiff City of Wales. This one is happening and I'm not 100% sure on like how all the draws of all the stadiums work, but this one's happening in Sports Park Schreerserve in Schede, I think. I don't know. It's in Dutch. How should I know how to pronounce that? But it is roughly 4.4 kilometers from Twente's home park. So like a 10 to 15 minute drive. in doing the research for this, I was hoping I could be like, yeah, just go up Route 4 and then you'll get that. But that's not how they name streets or roads in the Netherlands, apparently. So Twente won Eredivisie round, like I mentioned. They went 18-2-2. They went 10-0-1 at home last season.
Oof.
As some folks might remember, they lost to BK Häcken in the second qualifying round of the Champions League last season. But here's the crazy part. They got a 2-2 draw at Gothenburg, which we saw in the group stage was a hard place to play.
Wow.
But then they lost 2-1 at home. They were undone by a Felisa Schroeder goal in the 65th minute of the second leg. That goes exactly to what we're talking about. Like, you can be a good team on a good run. You run into BK Häcken, you're out before you even get to the group stage.
That's wild. This week, I thought a ton about my other favorite side, the Arsenal, and them just dropping that tough one to Pre-FC, and then that just being the end of it, sort of seemingly before it even got started. I feel like personally, as a fan and a follower of the sport, I feel like I can't let that happen again. Because like I don't even think I watched that match live, because I'm like, before I even knew the machinations, I was like, you're used to the men's and there's the group stage, and now there's a bunch of round robin stuff, and nobody's getting eliminated until like weeks and weeks into the action. But here it's like teams are going to go home on Wednesday,
right? Major clubs,
another huge chunk of teams are going to go home on Saturday. Major clubs, absolutely champions, you might say.
Yep.
I'm very excited to see kind of what happens between these two squads. I think Twente is going to have pretty big time advantage from a travel standpoint.
Oh yeah.
They obviously they're coming off a championship domestically against some other tough teams that they had to line up against this season. So I'm excited to see Twente, what they look like in this tournament. This is going to be an interesting early test for them, I think.
I'm ready to see it, man. So their top scorer last season was 22-year-old Liz Reichbergen. She knocked home 10 goals, had 6 assists. But also coming into this Champions League, they've lost 2 of their 3 leading scorers from last year. Taylor Zeimer, born in Santa Rosa, California, left Twente and went to Cologne in Frauen Bundesliga. She had 9 goals and 4 assists for Twente last season. And Marissa Alleslagers, she played all 22 matches for Twente and had 5 goals and 6 assists out the door as well. They are taking on Cardiff City from the Welsh League, the Adran Premier. And I think it's important to note that obviously Wales, pretty small country. I went there recently on my trip to Manchester. Me and my wife did a cool bus tour around like a little piece of northern Wales. The tour guide told us there are more sheep in Wales than there are people. So that's one thing to consider. And not like sheep like what Aaron Rodgers calls people if they don't believe crazy conspiracy theories, but actual sheep. But I digress. Cardiff City, they won a domestic treble last year. So they won the league. They won the Adran Premier. They won the Adran Trophy, which is a 24-team tournament across Wales' 3 divisions.
Wow.
And they also won the Welsh Cup, which has 24 teams in qualifying. And then those 12 winners, they joined 20 more clubs. And so it's a big old tournament. And by my calculations, looking at the scores of the Welsh Cup, Cardiff City outscored their opponents in that tournament 27-1 en route to winning that trophy.
Oof.
Their nickname is the Bluebirds. They were in the UEFA Women's Champions League qualifiers last year, but they lost both of their matches. They lost one to Lithuanian champs FC Gintra and one to Shelbourne, the winners of the Irish League. So I'm just going to go out and say that. We don't know shit about Cardiff City, because how could we? Like, I will raise my hand and say, as a guy living in Seattle, Washington, despite our climate being very similar to Wales, it's hard for me to keep up with the Welsh Women's League over there. I'm excited to see him play, and I just want to shout out real quick, because I was perusing their website looking for this. I want to shout out Siobhan Walsh. She retired this past offseason after captaining the club to the treble. She was their leader and their best defender who had some scoring ability, especially on set pieces. She hung up her boots after 11 years with the club. And so shout out to her, because I think, people get lost in these things and realize that, like, one of the beautiful parts about like club football is you have these club legends, and maybe nobody will ever, outside of there, will ever talk about them. So shout out to Siobhan. As for the players they currently have, Eliza Colley, she scored 31 goals across all comps for the Bluebirds. I have a good feeling that that's probably where the attack is going to come from in this match against Twente. But again, I don't know. Let's see what happens, and let's see who plays well.
Love it. Definitely shout out Siobhan. And I feel you, bro, on the research front. Not easy to find what were the biggest comings and goings for Nordsjælland, our Danish league champions.
Yeah.
Boy, I had a little bit of a time trying to get to the bottom of this one. But to your point, a lot of our learning last year was just in watching the games, bro.
Mm-hmm.
As mentioned, the Champions Path, going to be wild. 43 teams getting whittled down to 11 this week. That isn't the only way, though, to get to round 2 of this qualifying phase. There's also the league path, where some of those runner-ups and third-place teams in some of the other leagues will get whittled down just as mercilessly. So in the league path round 1, there are 16 teams, pretty much the same format, 4-team mini tournaments. So those 16 will become 4. Some more heavyweights in this pool as well. You can look at teams like Ajax. You can look at teams like Paris FC, Linkoping, Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah.
And you just don't imagine that all of them are going to survive. I want to start my league path examination with my Lady Gunners from Arsenal, who take on Rangers, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, in Meadow Park in Borehamwood in the United Kingdom.
Oh, I got stuff on Borehamwood. So, Meadow Park at Borehamwood. Arsenal women used to play there. Arsenal's youth teams currently play there, as well as Borehamwood FC, who plays in the National League South, which is not some new baseball division where like the Houston Astros would play or something like that. National League South is the 6th tier of English football. It's about 7.5 miles east of Vicarage Road, where Watford FC plays, and it's about 2 miles north of Roger Gracie's Jiu-Jitsu studio, if you're into that kind of thing in London.
Hell yeah. You said that's a 6th division?
The 6th tier of English football, yes.
The 6th tier, yeah. How many months of training would we need to show up and participate in a tryout?
Oh, buddy. I don't know if that number joking. Exists.
Yeah, no, maybe we could be their preferred podcast partners.
We could run their media relations, maybe.
I love that. Yeah, let's do it. Anywho, Arsenal, they're taking on Rangers at said Meadow Park in said Borehamwood. Arsenal finished 3rd in the WSL last season. They've only played a couple friendlies so far to kind of get warmed up. They had that 2-1 win over the Washington Spirit, or a shorthanded Washington Spirit side, and then a 1-0 loss to Chelsea, which I was pretty encouraged by. But then I started doing some of the mental math of who didn't play in that game. And then you quickly get to Myra Ramirez, Sam Kerr, Kat Macario, Mia Fischel.
Did LJ play in that game?
Aaron Cuthbert. LJ didn't play in that game either.
Oof. Yeah,
so it's
that's a lot of good players.
I know. Yeah, I started thinking about of all the players that didn't play. Is that like where would that team rank in? It's the best in the world, man. Probably top 5, top 6. I mean, this is effectively a preseason game. Really great, really instinctive finish from Sandy Baltimore. Chelsea's new signing was the difference in this one. Arsenal had a few really good chances, mostly Caitlin Ford that had the best looks. Alessia Russo as well. Kafaji was in spots mesmerizing.
Yep.
You know, she didn't quite dominate the game, but you just sort of see what she's able to do in tight spaces and in duels that she really shouldn't be winning. She doesn't have any discernible advantage, and she just scoots out the other way and does whatever she wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Hard not to get excited about imagining her entire game morphing into that, which would just be incredible. But I'm gonna check my Rosa Kafaji excitement. Speaking of BK Hacken last season, the other player that I was excited about, Mariona Caldente, who might have gotten over, not quite lost, but maybe a little bit more overlooked Barcelona.
Sure.
And all of the Barcelona players are so technically gifted that when you see, this match was really funny because you had Lucy Browns on one side and Mariana Caldente on the other, and you just see their level of poise it's in a different stratosphere.
Right.
I mean, there could be monster trucks like jumping over piles of cars on the field, and they would just very quickly, very tidily scoop past and get the ball exactly where they want to get. Both those players are just so incredibly cool. The skills on Caldente was just great. I mean, you just see it, you're just like, oh, okay, that's why they brought her in, because she can just do whatever she wants, especially when she has that space. And it's so much more noticeable when she's not playing with 10 other players that are just as skilled. So I went from being maybe lukewarm on the Caldente signing to pretty excited, pretty hopeful. I've warmed up quite a bit. I'm at like an 8.5 in terms of my warm scale. So obviously I mentioned at the top, extremely disappointing Champions League experience for your boy last year as an Arsenal fan. I don't want to be too excited about this tournament, but I am very excited. As an unbiased observer, Mr. Grand Angle, you look at this Arsenal side. What do you see with regard to, hey, this team's ceiling might be this, or this team still looks like a cut or two below some of the big dogs?
We talked about it during the transfer episode. Rosa Kavaji to Arsenal, I think, is massive. I think you're exactly right. Her creativity, her kind of ability to play in the middle of the field and move forward, I think that's going to be massive. And then you add Caldente, her calmness, her poise, her experience, her skill. I think they're going to be super dangerous. And when we talk about this path, can they win 3 matches to get into the group stage? Of course they can. And I think they're going to be ready to go. And I'm just going to put put a little take chip out there. Jonas Eidevall, if he knows what's good for him, they'll be ready to go.
I like it. The league path, I mentioned just 4 teams are going to advance there, right? So if you combine those 4 with the 11 that are going to advance from the champions path, that gives us 15 teams that are going to make it to round 2. Now, those 15 teams will then get matched up with 9 teams that advance straight to round 2, which include Slavia Praha, Roma, Hammarby, your Manchester City, Wolfsburg, Real Madrid, PSG, Juventus, and BK Häcken. So those 9 will be matched up with the 15 that are going to be in action this week. And then those 24 teams will get whittled down to 12. So when you say Arsenal's got to win 3, they got to win 2 here in the coming week or so. There will be another draw happening September 9th to figure out, okay, of the 24 teams, who's going to get matched up with whom. So I think at that point, once those 24 teams become 12, we will have our entire group stage 16. So a lot of exciting stuff, a lot of stakes, and just these are going to be like very nervy times for a lot of teams. I want to talk about Rangers really quick. They finished second in the Scottish Women's Premier League. They are 4 matches into this season's campaign, off to a hot start, 4 wins and 4 tries, 0 goals allowed, 33 goals scored.
Okay, pretty good in 4 matches, I would say.
I'm no mathematician, but I think that's good for a plus 33 goal differential. Yeah, they're led by Katie Wilkinson, 29-year-old English forward. She's got 8 goals in 4 matches. She scored in all 4 matches as well. And she is a new signing for Rangers from Southampton. Outside of that, we'll see how this Rangers side will be able to adjust against an Arsenal side that won't really let them dominate possession like Rangers likes to do in the Scottish Women's Premier League. So it's going to be interesting. Team that dominant domestically, having to switch up, having to play a stone throw away from North London. And I think that's kind of one of the beauties of this tournament. We remember from last year's group stage, some of these small clubs that, maybe were ranked really low, maybe of a team's whose jersey I'm wearing right now, really were able to step up. And then you saw other teams that were champions in other leagues just kind of get waxed by these other like large clubs. So it really is a mixed bag with regard to which of these domestic champions is able to kind of switch their style, maybe play a more counterattacking style, maybe play in more of a defensive shell, and still be able to get results a la BK Häcken. So I think that's the one thing that I'm going to be looking for the most closely, not just the results for this week, but who maybe has the formula to play 2 or 3 different kind of ways and have some success.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's an interesting piece, and maybe I'm just a super dork, and that's why I'm a little interested in this piece. But Rangers, from the heart of Glasgow, Scotland, Rangers is a massive club, a gigantic club in a 100-year-long death feud with Celtic FC. Now, I'm very curious to see, what if they put on a really good fight? Or, and I don't want this for you, I'm not wishing bad things upon you. What if they beat Arsenal? Do the people at Rangers then say, Arsenal puts 50,000 people in their stadium to watch women's football? Do teams in the UK, like Rangers, look at this and go, why can't we start to build some of that culture around here, around women's football? So I think there is a piece here, and your club and Chelsea Football Club are at the forefront of it in the UK specifically. There is a growth opportunity here, and if you can pull together some results on the pitch, then maybe some of these dopes will come to their senses and actually start really investing in their squads.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see that. And I mean, we could just look at it last year. You got to look at a team like, I don't know, Benfica or an Ajax or an SK Braun or a BK Häcken or a Paris FC. These are organizations that are not that far off.
Right.
And then when you look at like what Barcelona is able to do, or Chelsea or Arsenal or Lyon, or like these massive clubs that can fill these stadiums and tour around the world and spread the brand and actually enter these new markets already with some market share. They're not showing up as like the opening band, and like these are superstars.
Yep.
As these international tournaments start to cycle through and like you have player movement, and now we're only getting more and more exposed to so many of these talented players. You got to imagine that a team, like you said, even that gets bounced this week, probably leaves this round of qualifying in a better position than they came in. With regard to their brand, with regard to like the aura around the club, with regard to their vision for the future, and like I think you really can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah, 100% right. I mean, in some of my research for Cardiff City, they said like, look, we got bounced there, but then we won the domestic treble. We're building towards something. People are excited about something. And, I think every single club, but especially if you have a massive advantage, like being Rangers Football Club, you have an established brand to build on. So go build on it.
Hell yeah. So like as mentioned, that one's going down 2:30 p.m. Wednesday, September 4th. Did you have your eye on any of these other League Path matches?
I certainly did, my good man. And coincidentally, the match that I'm looking at, Atletico Madrid versus Rosenborg. Obviously, Atletico Madrid from Liga F, Rosenborg from Top Syrian in Norway. This one's also being played at Meadow Park in Borehamwood. I want to start with Atletico Madrid. They finished third in Liga F, only 24 points behind Barcelona. And they had some really interesting player movement. Lacey Santos out to the Washington Spirit. Ludmila out to the Chicago Red Stars. Anna Maria Crnogorcevic out to my Seattle Reign. Evan Navarro out to Real Madrid. Those players, plus some of the other departures, accounted for nearly 20 goals, 15 assists, and 8,000 minutes of playing time last season for this squad. However, they had a bunch of incoming transfers as well. 27-year-old Norwegian Sinne Jensen. She played at Real Sociedad the last 2 seasons. She had combined over those 2 seasons 24 goals and 6 assists. And again, I'm out here watching highlights and commenting on this, but from what I saw, looks like a real player. And you notched 24 goals over the course of 2 seasons. And even before her 2 seasons at Sociedad, in her last season with Vålerenga in Top Syrian, she notched 11 goals and 2 assists in about 1,300 minutes of playing time. So she's been on a nice scoring streak the last few seasons. So they bring in her, and they also brought in a trio of Brazilians: midfielder Ana Vitória from Paris Saint-Germain,
Let's go.
defender Lauren from KC Current, and midfielder Luani, who last played for Madrid CFF on loan from my Seattle Reign. So, I have this opinion with your Orlando Pride domestically. If your strategy is we bought a bunch of Brazilian players' contracts, thumbs up. I like your strategy.
Totally agree with that. We've seen all 3 of those players shine, I think, at different points. And I really appreciate the little look-in preview on 2 of the teams that Arsenal might be facing.
There we go.
Should they advance here. I mean, for all my optimism, I do have some worry. But I like those moves that you mentioned for Atletico, because I kind of like it. I kind of also don't like it because we might be facing this team who's going to be, I think, pretty battle-tested. And I think we've loosely gotten to know Rosenborg a little bit.
Full disclosure, I started to plan a whole bit where I am just a huge Rosenborg hater because they're 1 spot above Brann in the Top Syrian table. But I will just say, the fine folks of Bergen, Norway were very, very kind to us. Dino's wearing the crest on his chest as we speak. So I don't want to alienate Rosenborg supporters right away. Although I will say some of my instincts are to now treat them like a rival because we're indoctrinated in the Brann Battalion. But Rosenborg finished 2nd place in Top Syrian last season, and they're currently sitting in 2nd place this season. Now they are only 3 points ahead of our beloved Brann. They're sitting on 37, Brann's on 34. And let me just say, for the record, Brann's goal differential, 18 goals better. So,
right.
We got that going for us. However, I believe we've lost to Rosenborg in the last 2 matches that we've played them. So that's unfortunate.
I think it was the great Rasheed Wallace that said, goal differential don't lie.
That's right. She'd said it best. No matter what. Sorry for everybody who's just jumping in this. And actually, I say sorry, but we're not that sorry. This is still a Brann podcast, just so everybody knows. We're just talking about the UEFA Champions League at the same time.
Yeah, I had to wear the jersey in case I forgot.
Nicely done. So there was a lot of joy to be had for Rosenborg last season. They had 7 players score at least 5 goals, and they had a total of 14 players hitting the back of the net. Anna Josendal was their leading scorer. She had 8 goals and 9 assists last year. But she's not going to be a factor for Rosenborg in this UEFA Women's Champions League. But she might be a factor for Damallsvenskan winners Hammarby, because that's where she's playing, and we're going to see her in the qualifying round. So in the one match that I did see Rosenborg play Brann, obviously, I was watching it from the Brann perspective. Rosenborg scored early. They scored in the first 5 minutes. They scored late. They scored in the 76th minute. Again, they had more of the ball. They allowed Brann to kind of take some shots, but they never really looked super comfortable out there. So when you say that one of these teams, whether it's Atletico or Rosenborg, is going to come in playing Arsenal battle-tested, I think you're exactly right. I think these are two good sides, and this is exactly what kind of the theme of this entire show has been. These are great teams from all over the world, and they play in, varied sizes of leagues. And now we kind of get to see what happens. And we talked about it as Brann progressed and they made the knockout stage. And we were mocking everybody for saying, the lowest coefficient, but what's the coefficient for Brann's heart? You don't even know what that is. It's off the charts. That's the beauty of the tournament. We might be able to see it from another team this year.
Yeah, here's hoping. Here's also hoping it's not Rosenborg. I was going through the mental processes of do I want them to beat Atleti so that, we could just lay the smackdown on them and then get a little Brann retribution.
Nice.
But then I realized that, I don't know, man, those top Syrian teams might just be something about them. So maybe I don't want those problems. I don't know. This is sort of what the Champions League does to us. Turns us into maniacs. Up is down, down is up, left is right. So we just kind of have to buckle up and just try to survive this round.
Exactly.
I did want to hit one more matchup in the league path. There's some good matchups. You already mentioned Paris FC is taking on First Vienna. That one's going to be good. Eintracht Frankfurt in action against Sporting CP. Sparta Praha versus Linkoping. That one's going to be really fun.
Yep.
The matchup that I wanted to hit, though, another one of our beloved sides, Ajax taking on Kolos Kovalivka. This one's going down in Denmark. Ajax finished second in the Eredivisie, just 2 points behind the aforementioned FC Twente. Ajax, though, we're talking a lot of goal differential on the show. We're talking about how little goal differential lies. They did finish the season in the Dutch league with the best goal differential, clearing the next best by 7 goals. Now, heading into this tournament, they will be without Romeo Luchter and Chastity Grant, both who have moved on. So Ajax, they're going to need to find goals elsewhere. I don't know. What are you going to be looking for when we get to see Ajax in those Ajax colors out there doing Ajax things on the pitch?
I'm looking forward to it, man. Ajax, whether it's women's football or men's football, if Ajax is playing and they're on television, I probably want to watch it. Historic club, legendary players, some players who are legends in the making, some might say. I think that they should come out here and, we talk about the plucky teams who are going to come up, Kolos Kovalivka out of the Ukrainian league. I think if you're Ajax, you have to look at this and say, we need to batter this team. Mm. They need to kind of look at this and say, we're the bigger club. We have elite talent on our side. They have to go into this tournament every time thinking, okay, Eredivisie round is not quite big enough for us to get an auto bid yet. Mm-hmm. So we got to win 3 matches, but we're Ajax. Can Ajax win 3 matches in a row? Of course we can. Oh, yeah. So I think they're going to come in here in Denmark really looking to set a tone. Yeah,
and I think you can imagine that maybe they got a good draw. They're in the same pool with Fiorentina and Brøndby and Kolos Kovalivka. Kolos Kovalivka, they finished second in the Ukrainian Women's Professional Football League last season. This season, different story though. 4 matches in, still early. They're currently 15th in their home league, yet to win a match, 2 losses, 2 draws, -2 goal differential. So Ajax might be another team catching their opponent at the exact right time.
Nice. That is a recipe for, obviously, the Charles Barkley quote. I don't know who Kolos Kovalivka is, but they're in trouble.
I love that. So good.
It works for so many things.
Yeah, it's tried and true. Absolutely. Last little tidbit on this one. We know the Eredivisie is announcing their Town of the Year award winners on Monday, kind of like the Dutch League Heisman Trophy, you might say.
Nice.
Previous winners include Arjen Robben, Christian Eriksen, and Esme Brooks last year. Some pretty talented young players at Ajax probably in the mix for that award. We'll keep an eye on that.
I would have to imagine. Last year was the first year that they started actually awarding it to someone on the women's side of the league too. So progress is good. Some people have accused me of being a progressive kind of guy. I would say maybe we could have started doing that a little earlier, but you know what? We're doing it now. Let's keep it moving forward. Interested to see who takes it on both sides this year.
Yeah, I mean, this is only season 2 for us, so who are we to say anybody should have started earlier? We're starting where we're starting. What are we gonna do? We're all trying to elevate this thing together.
I like it.
Quick programming reminder: we'll be back early next week to break down NWSL Match Week 18. So be sure to be subscribed. You won't want to miss that. And we will be back next weekend to kind of recount all the Champions League action. We might wait till after the 9th. Maybe after the draw, we'll be back with Champions League recaps and previews for those final 12 pre-group stage matches. Very exciting stuff, man. Our Champions League coverage still just getting started. Make sure to stay locked in. This is just the first little baby step in the journey to the final in Lisbon.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to take this very first baby step. But I also want to point out that to all of our pals who started rocking with us at the beginning and like throughout the UEFA Women's Champions League journey last year, we've been lucky enough to make pals with people all around the world, from Norway and the UK and Portugal. So let us know, who are we missing? Who did we not talk about? Who maybe should we consider as a dark horse? Mm-hmm. You guys know ball, and you're out there in those countries. So please tell us. Honestly, I'm almost as excited for that part as I am the football itself, because we have so many people who are like, hey, man, I watched this video hoping to get my team. You didn't talk about them. Here's why they're great. And then we'll be locked in. So please let us know.
I love that. Yeah, definitely learning. I mean, it's a learning podcast.
Of course.
But it's also a community podcast. So I'm glad you kind of showed a little light on that, because the community that bubbled up after last year's Champions League, just unbelievable, rocking with us all the way through to our post-final live show, and then to our post final recap with our guy Chris Sharples from DAZN. That was a great. I mean, I can't believe we're back here already. I am just ready to get the football going. I mean, the midweek action as well, the midday action. Being in the US, I mean, that's just fucking unbeatable. It's just unbeatable. I'm very, very excited. All right, man. Before I have to go hose myself off in the backyard, anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I think we are back. We're stopping right there. We are back with the UEFA Women's Champions League. I think we've covered some of the things we need to cover. Again, let us know who we missed, who we need to keep an eye out for. But yeah, man, it's good to be back.
Hell yeah. Great to be back. Wanted to do a couple quick shout outs as well. We got a lot of great feedback from some of those members in our said community. So shout out to Boy Named Blue, Flangus Lammer.
Legends.
Both of the Michaels. You already know what time it is. Asil Tufili chiming in, giving us a little bit more shit on our Delphine Cascarino oversight. But she also came back over the top and let us know that she thinks that we should have an alcoholic beverage sponsor. Zero arguments there.
Correct.
Appreciate you chiming in, Asil, for sure. Philip Sullivan, you already know what time it is. Great friend of the show. Blade Runner. Way too many to name. Sharky Kitten, who I think had some great Orlando Pride stuff. Yep. After our last episode that they chimed in with in our comment section. So shout out for sure. I don't know. The community just keeps coming through. I'm just extremely appreciative of that.
We found the good corner of the internet. Who would have thought?
Unbelievable.
30 plus years after Al Gore invented the internet, Dino De Cespedes and Grant Angle have found a favorable, nice, friendly corner of the internet. Who could have conceived that?
I don't know, man. Life's good. What else can we say? And we're right here again. We have an entire tournament. We have an entire tournament to look forward to. Oh my God, it's going to be absolutely amazing. All right, man, I think we did it. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. A sincere thank you for watching, listening, following, liking, subscribing, just plain hanging out with your boys, being part of said community. We appreciate you. Remember to like if you liked and subscribe or follow Into the Channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over at your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grant Angle, debutante no more. Mm-hmm. We're vets in this shit. Season 2, you already know what time it is. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. We're coming back stronger than ever. There's no one and done for us. We're going to win the 3 matches. We're going to get into the group stage, make it to the knockouts. We'll be here throughout the duration, and we appreciate that you guys will as well, and we will see you next time.